Was it just a beautiful performance, or something much deeper, far more personal? On June 13th, 2025, during the final night of J-Hope's Hope on the Stage world tour in Gyeonggi Province, a single moment gripped millions around the world and sent waves of shock, concern, and curiosity rippling through ARMY fandom. When Jungkook, BTS's Golden Magne, took the spotlight and began singing a soulful ballad, everyone expected magic. But no one, absolutely no one, expected Jin, the group's eldest and often stoic member, to turn away, his face visibly shaken and his eyes swimming in tears he tried so hard to hide. What exactly happened on that stage? Why didn't Jin look at Jungkook? Why did his body tremble at the first verse? And what did he whisper, barely audible, when he clutched his mic but never sang a note? The moment has sparked a whirlwind of online theories, impassioned emotional reactions, and more than a few broken hearts. It was supposed to be a celebration, their reunion after years apart due to mandatory military service and the 12th anniversary of BTS as a band. Yet, something else, something fragile, painful, and deeply personal, was quietly unfolding in real time before millions of viewers' eyes. As fans around the globe scrambled to understand what they had witnessed, one theory began to dominate discussion boards and social media hashtags. A theory that isn't just believable, it's heartbreakingly human. Jungkook's voice that night reminded Jin of someone he lost. Someone irreplaceable. Someone whose memory may have been buried until that night, when it resurfaced through a single melody. Could it really be that Jungkook's voice brought Jin back to a lullaby from his childhood? Was it the tone, the phrasing, the way his voice trembled on certain words? And if so, was Jin remembering the voice of his own mother? In the days following the performance, Jin has remained quiet. His last public appearance was a brief wave to fans after the concert, and his expression, although smiling, carried the faint residue of exhaustion, as if his heart had been elsewhere. But fans, ever observant and deeply intuitive, have taken it upon themselves to search, analyze, and yes, speculate. They have pieced together interviews, old memories, and rare moments where Jin spoke of his family, especially his mother. Could this be the first time he's publicly displayed grief, hidden in plain sight? We know that Jin is no stranger to emotion, but he often guards it carefully, only letting it show in small, subtle moments often missed unless one knows exactly where to look. But on June 13th, there was no mistaking it. The minute Jungkook's voice rang through the stadium, a subtle change came over Jin. His posture shifted. His hands trembled slightly. His eyes turned downward and stayed there. He never looked up again for the entire duration of the song. This was not just a performance. It was a trigger. Sources from the backstage area later told reporters that Jin, moments before stepping on stage, had clutched a pendant he wears under his shirt, a small silver locket rumored to carry an old photo of his mother. Those close to BTS have always known that Jin's bond with his family was deep. And although he rarely talks about it publicly, there have been hints over the years. Tiny breadcrumbs. A 2016 radio interview where he mentioned a special lullaby that his mother used to hum. A 2019 fan meet where he wiped away a tear after a fan brought a letter from her own mother. A 2021 V Live session where he paused, mid-laughter, when someone played a clip of a soft, old Korean folk song, then excused himself for just a moment. And now this. Could Jungkook have unknowingly chosen the one song that would undo his hyun? A fan-recorded video captured perhaps the most jarring moment. As Jungkook sang the words, "I still hear you in my sleep," Jin visibly bit his lip, looked down, and subtly stepped back, away from the spotlight. For a second, it almost looked like he might walk off stage entirely. Was he trying to stop himself from crying? Or was he reliving something far too painful to show to the world? In one angle shot from the side of the stage, J-Hope glances at Jin, clearly noticing something's wrong. He doesn't say anything. He simply steps closer, almost protectively. A small but profound gesture. Later, after the performance ended, fans noted that Jin took a few seconds longer than usual to return to center stage. When he did, he walked straight to Jungkook and embraced him. Not in a casual, brotherly hug fans are used to, but in a long, still, silent hold. And then a whisper,
Caught faintly on a fan cam mic.
"You sound just like her." Her. Not them. Not that. Her. Who was her? The fandom erupted, and the pieces started to come together faster than ever before. Those who had long followed Jin's private journey suddenly remembered that during an earlier broadcast in 2022, shortly before his enlistment, Jin had shared a drawing he made during therapy. He had joked about it being just a house, but some fans noticed the drawing included two figures, a boy and a woman in a hanbok. Above the woman were faded musical notes. Could it be that Jin lost his mother to illness while still very young? Could that memory have been deeply buried until Jungkook's voice pulled it violently back into the light? Could the concert, meant to celebrate unity and survival, have become, for Jin, a moment of unintentional mourning? We may never know all the answers. Jin himself may never speak of it. He may never confirm nor deny what fans believe they saw that night. But what's clear is that something very real happened on that stage. Something that shook Jin to his core. Something that fans around the world felt alongside him, as if the song had peeled open an old scar that hadn't yet fully healed. And maybe that's what makes this moment unforgettable. Not the vocals, not the choreography, not even the spectacle of a sold-out stadium under fireworks, but a single, silent, painful truth that no matter how famous, how strong, or how adored someone becomes, grief still lives in their bones. And sometimes, all it takes to awaken it is the sound of a familiar voice singing in the dark. And now, fans around the globe are no longer just analyzing what they saw. They are feeling it. They are living inside Jin's silence. They're playing the video back on loop, rewinding the seconds where he flinched, slowing the frame where his eyes welled up, dissecting the exact note where his breath caught in his throat. This was not merely a performance. It was, for many, a reckoning. Thousands of armies have flooded platforms like X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Weverse with the same haunting phrase, "He sang like my mother used to." Some fans even began sharing their own stories, moments when a song shattered them, not because of the lyrics, but because of the voice singing them. Suddenly, Jin's reaction became a mirror for millions. A viral thread by a longtime BTS fan from Seoul laid it out plainly. Jungkook's voice is angelic, yes, but it's also innocent, childlike. It carries warmth. And for someone like Jin, who might have carried the memory of his mother's lullabies for decades in silence, that voice could have broken something open that he wasn't prepared for. The post has garnered over 5 million likes in under 48 hours. Another fan account resurfaced a quote from Jin during an early Bangtan Bomb behind-the-scenes video in 2014. In it, Jin says, "Whenever I get nervous, I hear someone humming. I think it's in my memory, maybe from childhood. It calms me down." It was a quiet, passing comment at the time, but now, a chilling breadcrumb. What if that humming was his mother? And what if, for the first time in over a decade, Jin heard it again, but through Jungkook's voice? How do you stand on a stage and sing when you're suddenly 6 years old again, hearing the voice of the person who held you when the world was still a safe place? You don't. You lower your gaze. You let the flood come quietly. And that's exactly what Jin did. In multiple angles from the crowd, Jin can be seen fidgeting with something hidden beneath his shirt during the song. At one point, his fingers tremble as they clasp around it. Later, in a zoomed-in clip, a silver chain briefly slips out. Notably, Jin has worn this same chain in nearly every appearance since his return from military service, but never explained its origin. Some believe it's simply jewelry. Others are convinced it's a locket, a keepsake, possibly even one passed down by his mother. There's no confirmation. Jin has never addressed it. But on that night, during that song, he gripped it like it was the only thing keeping him standing. At this point, even news outlets beyond the K-pop sphere have begun picking up on the moment. Korean tabloid dispatches are calling it a heartbreaking yet beautiful slip of vulnerability, while international music blogs are declaring it one of the most humanizing moments in BTS's storied history. Emotional vulnerability from global superstars often becomes viral spectacle, But with Jin, it's something different. It's sacred. Even Jungkook himself seemed aware, on some level, that something had shifted. In a post-concert live stream the next night, fans asked him about the performance. Jungkook smiled warmly, then paused, his expression softening. "I think we all had moments during that concert that hit different," he said. "There was something in the air. A lot of feelings. You know, sometimes when we sing, it's not just for the fans. It's for someone we miss too. Someone we miss." He never mentioned Jin. He didn't have to, because the silence said everything. J-Hope, too, appeared more introspective than usual during the post-show press photos. While always the radiant energy of BTS, his eyes carried a tenderness, a protective glance toward Jin that was captured in several stills now circulating online under the hashtag #JungkookHealing. And that hashtag, oh, how it has exploded. Armies aren't just celebrating a reunion anymore. They're mourning with Jin. They're comforting him from afar. They're lighting candles, drawing fan art, and composing letters addressed to Jin's Alma, thanking her for the lullabies that shaped the man who's now shaping millions of lives. One particularly viral fan art depicts young Jin as a child, sleeping in his mother's lap as she hums a song. In the background stands Jungkook, older, singing the same tune, with ghostly notes flowing between the past and present. It has over 1.2 million shares in under 3 days. Another fan posted an audio mashup, a recreated version of a traditional Korean lullaby sung softly by a female voice, overlaid with Jungkook's vocals from the concert. The result is haunting, chilling, beautiful, and devastating. Underneath it, the caption reads, "Maybe she was there that night listening too." This wave of collective emotion has also reignited conversations about grief in the world of idols. So often, performers are expected to be flawless machines of perfection, smiling, singing, dancing, all while burying their pain. But Jin's visible crack in that armor, it's become a testament to his humanity and his bravery. Because to not look away from that kind of pain, ironically, sometimes requires looking away. What's even more poetic is that this moment happened during Jimevu, a song about feeling lost in a place that should feel familiar. A song about repetition, trauma, and trying to hold on to identity through confusion. Could there be a more tragically fitting backdrop for Jin's emotional rupture? As the days pass, more fans are combing through BTS's discography, looking for songs Jin may have chosen or avoided over the years. Looking for patterns, hidden grief, ghosts in melodies. This is not conspiracy. This is compassion in its rawest form. Jin has always loved music. But now, fans are beginning to wonder, was music also his mother's gift to him? And was that gift returned, painfully and beautifully, by Jungkook that night? It's rare that a single note, a single line, can carry so much weight. But that's what happened. When Jungkook sang those first words, something ancient and sacred shattered quietly in Jin's heart. And the world felt it echo. For a man known for his laughter, his dad jokes, his warmth, it was a glimpse of his sorrow. And yet, through that sorrow, something else bloomed. Connection. Not just between Jin and Jungkook, but between Jin and millions. Because when pain is shared, it begins to heal. And maybe that's the final truth we can take from that night. That through one voice, another soul remembered. And in remembering, he wept not out of weakness, but because love, real love, never truly fades. And sometimes, it sings back to us when we least expect it. And the days following the performance, a new wave began rising. Less about what happened, and more about why it struck so many people so deeply. Jin's emotional unraveling, brief as it was, tapped into something much larger than a single man's memory. It exposed the truth fans have long sensed but rarely vocalized. K-pop idols grieve too, even in silence. But what happens when that silence finally sings? In this case, it sang through the golden voice of someone Jin helped raise, someone he trained beside, cried with, protected Jungkook, the youngest, the most emotionally transparent of them all. He stood in the spotlight that night not as a superstar, but as an echo. And somehow, without realizing it, He summoned the voice of a woman who once held Jin in her arms and sang him to sleep. Was it accidental? Or were the stars aligned for this precise unraveling? One can't help but wonder. One Weverse fan theorized, maybe Jin needed to hear her one more time. Maybe that's what this concert gave him. Another added, it's not pain. It's a gift wrapped in grief. As that theory spiraled into millions of hearts, another fan posted an old 2013 Bomb video, nearly forgotten, where Jin stares at a piano, saying softly, "My mom used to play lullabies on an old piano." She wasn't a musician, but she had music in her hands. That clip, once just a cute comment, now felt like prophecy, as if Jin had been foreshadowing this moment for over a decade. Even veteran K-pop reporters have begun connecting dots, acknowledging what fans have felt all along, that Jin's strength has always come not from guarding his emotions, but from surviving them. Through the military years, the solitude of early fame, the demands of being the eldest and the protector, perhaps he placed his pain somewhere he thought it wouldn't return. But pain always finds a voice. And on June 13th, 2025, that voice was Jungkook's. Analysts from Korean entertainment outlets began diving deeper, interviewing vocal coaches, psychologists, and even grief counselors to better understand the psychology behind Jin's reaction. One Seoul-based grief therapist, Kim Soo-won, told Yonhap News, "Music can act as a time machine for unresolved grief. A voice, a tone, a certain way a word is sung. It bypasses the brain and goes straight into the body." Jin's breakdown was not a surprise to me. It was, in fact, an overdue memory finding its breath. This explanation struck a chord, especially with older fans, many of whom posted about similar experiences. One comment stood out among thousands. "My father passed away when I was 13. Years later, I heard a singer who had his exact cadence. I collapsed in a grocery store aisle." So yes, I know what Jin felt, and I love him more now for not pretending he didn't feel it. There's something quietly revolutionary about vulnerability on a stage like that. For BTS, a group whose very name stands for Bulletproof Boy Scouts, protecting the youth from prejudice and pressure, this moment shattered that bulletproof image in the most necessary way. It reminded the world that strength isn't just about smiling through the pain. Sometimes it's about letting the pain breathe. And Jin did, even if only for a song's length. Backstage sources have since confirmed that Jin took a moment after the performance to be alone. He reportedly stayed in his dressing room longer than the rest, emerging with red-rimmed eyes and a soft smile. When asked by a staff member if he was okay, he simply replied, "I just heard someone I missed." It was the only sentence he offered, and it was enough. Fans didn't need a press statement. They didn't need an official explanation, because what Jin gave them on stage was more powerful than any press release. Honesty. One fan who attended the concert shared their firsthand account in a viral blog post. "I didn't know why I started crying, but when I saw Jin looking down, gripping something around his neck, and refusing to meet Jungkook's eyes, I felt it. It wasn't sadness. It was longing, like he wanted to go back for just one night, to be a child, to hear her sing. And maybe, just maybe, he did go back. Through the music, through Jungkook, through the warmth of a memory made visible in melody." As the moment continues to dominate headlines and fan spaces, cultural critics are calling it the rawest moment in BTS history and a redefining rupture in the wall between idol and human. And what makes it all the more poignant is that Jin never collapsed. He never sobbed uncontrollably. He never fled the stage. Instead, he stayed. He stood. He wept silently. And then he hugged Jungkook, not just as a member of BTS, but as someone who, even unknowingly, gave him a gift wrapped in music and memory. Since then, Jungkook has made subtle references during live streams, soft thank yous, quiet acknowledgements of heavy hearts in the crowd that night. But true to form, he has not elaborated. Neither has Jin, and perhaps they never will, because this wasn't a PR moment. It wasn't content. It was a son remembering a mother. It was a voice that sounded like home. And for one quiet moment in the middle of fireworks, choreography, and screams of joy. Jin didn't need to sing. He just needed to remember. As ARMY continues to mourn with him, celebrate with him, and love him through the invisible threads of this shared grief, one message has become loudest across all platforms. You don't have to say anything, Jin. We heard everything you felt, and maybe that's what makes this moment eternal. It didn't need translation. It didn't need explanation. It was emotion, unfiltered, unplanned, unmasked. And in the universe of BTS, where every beat has meaning and every pause has purpose, that one look away, that one lowered gaze, that single line from Jungkook that turned into an echo from Jin's past will be remembered not as a breakdown, but as a breakthrough. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is weep, not for the world to see, but for a voice that only he could hear. And sometimes that voice is his mother's lullaby, coming back to him through the soul of a younger brother, under the lights of a stage built on dreams and wounds and healing.